All right. Welcome to this episode of Quick Flips here on the Bat Flip Entertainment channel. My name is David. I am joined by Matt. As always, tonight, Damien is not here to discuss the Dodgers signing a player. So we'll jump into that. That's going to be a fun one. But Matt, first of all, a couple of different contracts dropped earlier today. Um, what were your thoughts seeing the winter meetings finally heat up a little bit going into it was kind of Tuesday afternoon, really.
Yeah, well, it's been a really slow start to the off season so far. We really hadn't seen all that much. So, we saw a couple pretty decent sized trades, a couple of, signings here and there. We had the Dylan C signing, that was big. But going into the winter meetings, it was real quiet on Sunday and into Monday. And today the bombshells started flying. You had Kyle Schwarber sign with the Phillies, re-sign with the Phillies. I believe it was 5 years, 150.
Mhm.
And then we had Edwin Diaz signed to the Los Angeles Dodgers for 3 years, 69 million, which I expected Edwin Diaz to get more than that. I was kind of surprised that that's what he landed at. He is 31 years old, so it's not like he's some late 30s closer. There's nothing really in his profile that screams this guy's regressing. He's been excellent. His velocity's been a touch down from what it was in his 2022 all world season he had, but that's really the only thing in his profile that hasn't been as elite. But I mean, he had a 163 ERA and 66 innings this year,
Mhm.
28 saves. He's gonna. This is one of those closers that is possibly a future Hall of Famer. If he can continue on the track he's been on, and the Mets letting him go is pretty wild to me that they didn't bring him
Yeah.
back. And then the Kyle Schwarber signing I thought was, I think the Phillies might have just overpaid slightly for him. It being a 5 year deal with him being 32 years old, the profile that he is, DH only, he is coming off his best career season. He's going to be excellent for the next 2 or 3 years, I would imagine, at least. So this contract should work out. But I thought maybe a 4 year deal was kind of more what he would be getting. I don't remember what I predicted. I might have predicted a five
I
year deal, but
yeah.
I would have probably given him a 4 year deal if it was my decision making. But
Yeah, I went and looked at our predictions because I predicted Kyle Schwarber at 5 for 150 on the
Mhm.
money to the Phillies. So perfect prediction for me.
Yeah, there you go.
You had him at 5 for 125, right? And
Okay.
I went back and watched the video. It's on TikTok and here on YouTube if you want to go look at it. But
Mhm.
the predictions video, Kyle Schwarber, you were saying you expected him to get less money, but what happened? And I think the
Yeah.
key factor to the money for Kyle Schwarber was the bidding was crazy. The
Yes.
Reds were involved at over $100 million. The Orioles were involved at the same price that he signed with Philly. Pirates were involved at a very similar price to what he signed
Yeah.
with Philly. I want the Red Sox were involved as well. Like there was a lot of teams who got, there's this we tried leaderboard
Yeah.
going right now for teams that say, oh well, we tried, we offered so and so a contract.
Yeah.
Um, Cubs fell out of the lead on that one today. Thank God, kind of. Hopefully, the Cubs actually signed some people, right? But um, the Reds and the Orioles, I think, gained a ton of being on the We Tried leaderboard
Yeah.
there this evening.
Yeah, and I think that's a big kind of a look at the rest of the offseason too. The Reds and Orioles are both, pretty young teams that are in varying stages of their, quote unquote rebuilds. The Orioles obviously coming off a horrible season, but that's after two really good seasons in a row. They have all this young talent and, maybe showing a little bit of a willingness to spend. I mean, they were willing to give a DH $30 million. So that's willingness to spend, whether he took it or not. And then how do the Pirates, like, that's kind of out of nowhere, right? Like we did not expect them. Now that might have been a little bit more of a token interest. If you end up being able to underpay a little bit what the market would be for him, you might take it. But hey, maybe they're willing to spend a little bit this offseason and try to build something around Paul Skeens since they seem to not be wanting to trade him. So
There's going to
we'll
be
see.
there's going to be, I think the Pirates' interest here is different than the Reds' interest. How about that?
Yeah,
I think the Pirates and the Orioles are genuinely interested in adding major league talent, changing the way that those rosters are going for similar reasons, but I think different reasons than each other. Right? The Orioles
yeah,
have a very good position player core. They're going to be looking to add pitchers, and they're going to be looking at that top end talent. I think the Orioles are now going to pivot right into the Kyle Tucker market and see if they can't go get Kyle Tucker on a slightly reduced contract versus maybe what
yeah,
was being expected at the beginning of winter. They're also going to pivot into the trade market. They've got a ton of outfielders, probably too many. They can trade a couple of them, right, for some theoretically for some starting pitching. And the rumor is already out there. They're trying to get Edwin Cabrera from the Marlins. They're trying to get that team better. And then the same thing for the Pirates. And I think that what's important for the Pirates is to not get discouraged because I think they
yeah,
were right in there with the bidding. I think they were at
yeah,
5 for 140, 150 as well. Don't get discouraged. Go out there and try to sign Pete
yeah,
Alonso. Try to convince Eugenio Suarez, right? Go after Munetaka Murakami. That'd be another really good one. Like, take a swing for the
yeah.
stars. It
I,
might not work, but try to be better.
yeah, I will say with the Pirates, I think the best thing that they can do is go add some guys who are safer, good big league bats. Like I wouldn't go add a Munetaka Murakami because there's a lot of downside to that contract if
Sure.
you're not going to spend at a high level. That's a big market type player who, if they have to eat some money, it's not the end of the world. If the Pirates have to eat money, it's the end of the world because there's a chance that Murakami is really, really, really good. There's a chance that Murakami's out of the league in 2 years. So, there's a lot of variation with him, and that might be an
Yeah.
exaggeration, 2 years, but
Yeah.
still, there's
It's
a lot of variation there.
he could be bad, but I
Mhm.
think for Pittsburgh in particular, they need to be taking the big
Yeah.
shots. I love that they were involved in Kyle Schwarber
Well, the,
here.
the
He's
Schwarber,
fit well with them.
Schwarber's different because that's a high upside bat who was really, really good this year, and you at least know what you're gonna get from him as a baseline. Like
Right.
he's gonna hit 40 home runs, and he's gonna have a 120 or higher WRC plus. He might not have a
Mhm.
152 WRC plus like he had this year again, but he'll have a 120 to 130 WRC plus. He would be the best hitter on the Pirates, and I think we're
Right.
pretty sure that that's going to happen unless he's injured.
He'll,
So that to me would be one of on the line of they're spending a lot. It's a big contract for the Pirates to give out. It is a DH. It's a lot of money, but that's a safe player. Kyle Schwarber's a safe player to me. I mean,
yeah.
you feel like he's going to at least be good.
Well, let's steer it back to he signed with the Phillies. I don't know if we even really
Yeah,
said that. He re-signed with the Phillies, but the
yeah.
market, the bidding
How would he
specifically was very
possibly?
intriguing.
Yeah, how
Um,
would he possibly fit on the Phillies? Right.
right. And so he returns to the Phillies.
Mhm.
The Phillies. It's funny because I don't think the Phillies are. They don't get better with this, right? They retain what they had.
Right.
Um, and the report was that JT
Mhm.
Realmuto signed today. I don't know if that
I,
one's 100%
I
true. That
think
hasn't been verified by the
I'll be
other
shocked if he
reporters.
doesn't go back to Philly. I
Right.
mean, if they are willing to give him a contract, I'll be shocked if he doesn't go back there.
We all have JT Realmuto back to the Phillies. I think it's kind of expected. The problem with what the Phillies are doing right now is that they're staying the same across the
Yeah.
board. And the thing about Philly, they needed to get this done. Kyle Schwarber returning was
Yeah.
important. They couldn't let him walk. They couldn't let him walk to the Pirates. I mean that couldn't have happened. That would have been bad.
Yeah.
I think the Phillies fans might have torn down the ballpark if they did that. But it's a good thing that he's back, but I don't
Mhm.
think the Phillies are a better team today than they were at the end of the season right now because Schwarber was already there.
Probably not. And obviously the Phillies have lost starting pitcher too in Ranger Suarez, who hasn't signed yet. So, there's a little bit of like, they're still going to have to make some improvements. I will say this about the Phillies last year. The Phillies were really, really, really good last year. They were the best team in the National League, I thought. They were better than the Dodgers. They choked the Dodger series in the
Yeah.
playoffs. And I think that you kind of look at the process of how that team was built and you think that that team was not broken in how it was built. It was broken in that you played a playoff series against another really good team, and you had a little bit of bad luck, and you had a couple of moments where you choked, and then your pitcher threw the ball to the backstop when he could have thrown into an easy out at first base to end that series.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think that the talent on that roster was the problem. I don't think that there's really, I mean, now, you can always try to add, like don't get me wrong, but bringing back that roster that they had last year to me would be fine. I mean, I think that's a
Mhm.
World Series contender. Now, the Dodgers are probably going to get better. We're going to talk about how they've
They
already gotten
did.
better here in a minute, but they're probably going to make other moves too. So that's coming. But I mean, the Phillies bringing back Kyle Schwarber, bringing back JT Realmuto if it happens, just bringing back the band from last year, maybe adding a different starting pitcher from Suarez, or just bring back Ranger Suarez. He's really good for the Phillies. I mean,
Yeah.
like I think all those moves are definitely things that you can kind of point to, and then maybe you add a good bullpen arm or two that gives you a little bit more depth in that part of your team, because that's kind of been their Achilles heel for the last several years, has been just their bullpen's been so weak. I mean, there
Right.
hadn't been any depth. They've had a couple years where they had guys that were closing that did pretty well, but they just haven't had that three or four guys in their bullpen to really win in the postseason. So
Right.
going to be very interesting to see how they continue to work with their offseason. But I'm totally on board with them just bringing back the guys they had last year that were really successful for them, and I think that's totally a good enough call for them.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point, right? The team was good, but it's going to be a year older. They're currently
Yeah,
shopping Nick Castellanos. Like, I think there's some stuff that could change. They may yet be
yeah.
in the Kyle Tucker market that's been a
The
rumor.
the problem that the Phillies are going to have is their age,
Mhm.
because and there's really not anything they can do about that, because you're not going to tell Bryce Harper to beat it because he's 35 years old or something, or 34 or whatever he's going to be. You're not going to tell Trey Turner to beat it because he's 33 years old.
Mhm.
You're kind of just gonna you're gonna enjoy them as long as they're good,
Mhm.
and then you're gonna be kind of screwed for a few years because you're gonna have so much payroll tied up in late 30s players that are players like Trey Turner, who's a lot of his game, his strength is tied up in his athleticism. That's gonna be a thing. So JT Realmuto is the same way. Like, a guy that is very, very good. A lot of his ability as a catcher, he's great as a catcher to start with, but just his athleticism is what stands him out from other catchers.
Right.
Those are the kinds of things that I think that you're gonna see from the Phillies. But I think that this one year, I don't think they're gonna regress so much in one year that bringing back that offense is gonna be the problem. So
Sure. So let's move over to the Dodgers signing Edwin Diaz. Diaz departs from the Mets, goes to the dark side, as it were, with the Dodgers signing the biggest reliever on the market for the second consecutive
yep.
offseason. It did not work for them last year. Tanner Scott was not good in 2025, blew a lot of saves, was not available in the postseason. He was hurt. I think some kind of abscess or something like that. He had a weird injury that wasn't kind of normal. But you push to Edwin Diaz. Diaz has been one of the most reliable closers in the game over the last six or so seasons in New York. I mean, I don't see how this isn't like a massive upgrade, but how long can the Dodgers continue to chuck
Yeah.
money at the bullpen problem is my question.
So I think this is a massive upgrade for the Dodgers. I was not a huge Tanner Scott believer last year. I thought that he
Mhm.
was good, his stuff looked good, but the track record wasn't that long of him being a successful pitcher, and there was always some control question with him. Edwin Diaz's track record, he has been an elite relief pitcher for 7, 8 years now in a row. I mean, he has been elite. The only year he wasn't elite was 2019, in which he had a 5.59 ERA. That was his first year with the Mets. The metrics that year on him were still really good. He just had some bad luck.
Mhm.
It was a bad year. Ever since then, he has been the best closer in baseball, in my
Pretty
opinion.
much, yeah.
And he's not old. He's 31 years old. Like I said earlier, he's not
Mhm.
old. I was surprised that he signed this deal at this price. I don't know if I don't know what the thought process behind that was. I'm really surprised the Mets didn't bring him back. I don't
You know,
understand. I
we
mean,
the Mets did sign Devin Williams,
they signed Evan Williams, but
and
the Mets are a team that's been chunking money at players willy nilly for the last 3 or 4 years, and their owner Steve Cohen is definitely not shy to chunk money at Edwin
mhm,
Diaz. I mean, he had signed Edwin Diaz a few years ago to the biggest relief pitcher contract in Major League history.
Yeah.
So I don't know why, unless Edwin Diaz just wanted to leave. It surprises me that, I mean, now I thought there was a world where someone just overpaid him by so much. The Mets were like, well, we're not going to just throw money down we're just not going to throw money away. But like, I don't, I thought that
Yeah.
was at this deal. I thought this deal was very fair. There was a lot of teams that I thought would have done this deal. I mean,
It's interesting. The deal's 3 years, 69 million.
it has some
Some
deferrals in it
deferred,
too.
some
Yeah,
deferred. It's not quite as much as Devin Williams's deal.
right.
I think the total present value is 63 million. So it's like two to
Mhm.
three
Yeah,
um, deferred. The Mets offered 66 million. This a lot of this I think is Edwin Diaz wanted to go to the
yeah,
Dodgers, man. I think
yeah,
that's what it is. I think the Dodgers just have um, they have a reputation that sells itself right now. You're
yeah.
going to go to the playoffs. You're going to be the favorite for the World Series,
Yeah.
guaranteed.
Well,
Edwin Diaz doesn't see that future with
yeah,
the
well, there's a
Mets.
lot of there's a lot of things about the Mets right now that are kind of red flags. They've lost some coaches this offseason. They that just that September collapse that they had and the clubhouse questions that, and then holding on to the manager that's a kind of a younger manager that's not super
Mhm.
experienced. Like, there's some managers that have a really long track record where, bad stretches happen, September collapses happen. That's part of baseball. Sometimes a veteran manager, it's going to be around long enough. That's going to happen to every one of them at some point. But a young manager like Carlos Mendoza, you wonder like how he survived this season. I mean, the
Mhm.
Mets had all these expectations. They signed Juan Soto last offseason. They were one of the highest paid. They were probably the second highest paid team in baseball, or maybe the third behind the Yankees and Dodgers. But they were up there, and they had all these expectations, and then they just, I mean, they do. I mean, they fall apart at the end of the season, and I think that there's a world where Edwin Diaz just wants out of that, and some of these other Pete Alonso might want out of that. I think that's a big thing. But to answer your original question, the Dodgers throwing money at the bullpen problem. I mean, the question's got not how much money can the Dodgers throw at it? Is it going to work? The question is like, when do the Dodgers stop throwing money at everything? Because as
Mhm.
long as they got more money to throw, they keep signing Edwin Diaz. I mean, eventually they're going to work. I mean, so, if they could just eat bad contracts, which they do, I
Right.
mean, like if Tanner Scott ends up not turning it around this year and it's just a bad contract, there's no downside to the Dodgers because they're just going to eat that money and go sign Edwin Diaz. I mean, so there's no downside to this whatsoever for the
Mhm.
Dodgers. They'll probably sign more relievers this offseason. Their bullpen not only was bad at the back end, but it wasn't very deep either last year. They need more than just him. I mean,
Yeah.
I, I'll be shocked if they don't add more. And I mean, yes, they're going to keep throwing money at it, and it's going to work.
Right. And that's the thing about the Dodgers is even though this is the highest annual average value for a reliever that's ever been paid,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter, right? It's not going
Yep.
to hurt
They
their
don't
bottom
care.
line. The money doesn't matter at this point. It's the Dodgers get to pay this deal basically is
Yeah.
where it sits. Um, I don't know that there's any fight that could have been made by the Mets or anybody.
Mm.
If the player wants to go to the Dodgers, it's going to go to the Dodgers. Like it's just going to happen. They'll work the deal in basically. Um, you know, Edwin Diaz, we said a lot about just he's good, right? He's a great closer, got the atmosphere when he
Yeah.
enters the game. But to me, this tries to slam home fixing that bullpen for the Dodgers,
Yeah.
which ran out starters all playoffs. So
Yeah.
um, I don't know that there's even much more than that on Edwin Diaz. It's such a I'll tell you, we saw it a lot on Twitter today, right? And some of the other, Discord and some of the other things. It's people are just tired, man. They're tired of the Dodgers. It's like, well, great again,
I
but
know.
it's so funny because it's a fit. The fit makes sense, but like, why did it have to be the Dodgers again? Give me
Yeah.
the
Well,
best reliever. Oh my goodness, it's
well,
tired.
that's the thing. It's just that whole, and we're not going to get into that conversation right now. This is the conversation about Edwin Diaz and about Kyle Schwarber and JT Realmuto and the impact of those moves.
Mhm.
But every time the Dodgers sign somebody like this, that whole conversation is going to keep growing, and it's going to lead to next year.
Yeah.
We're gonna have the lockout next year, and that's
Mhm.
gonna where the conversation goes. Whether you like it or not, whether it's fair or not, that's where the conversation's going every time the
Mhm.
Dodgers do something like this. So
Right.
I think that there's going to be a lot of fans that are not happy about this, and I don't blame them. I mean,
No,
I wish my team had the money the Dodgers have, just throw at everything. And I don't think that I don't think that any team has that kind of money. I know these are billionaire owners, but if the billionaire owners from other teams start throwing money, then the Dodgers are just going to throw more money than they are now.
mhm.
So because they have more money, and
They do.
that's kind of the predicament that you're in with this the current system, and I don't know how fixable it is at this point, and that's why we're about to get into some issues here between the players and the ownership, and and
Right.
all the above. So, but in this season in 2025, when we know we'll have baseball, or sorry, 2026, my God, time's flying. 2026, we know we're having baseball. Edwin
Mhm.
Diaz to the Dodgers is a really good move for the Dodgers, and I mean, Edwin Diaz is probably going to get a World Series ring because of it. And
Yeah.
but
I get to make this point, because,
Mhm.
and I'll make this final point, and then we'll hit a comment and wrap up. Um, my thought earlier today was there's no reason that the Reds owner came out and said they weren't going to spend more money this offseason. They were really the Schwarber thing was kind of an anomaly because he's from Cincinnati and they felt like
Yeah,
the hometown thing it would be a draw and it would give them different additional money than say going out and signing Kyle Tucker.
right.
I I see that, and I see Edwin Diaz signing with the Dodgers, and I see two problems with
Yeah.
baseball. Right? I
Oh yeah.
see, I see the owners that actively avoid paying for contracts, like the Reds owner, and then I see the owners like the Dodgers, who will pay any contract, who have
Yeah.
crafted a Death Star of highly paid players, and I see two problems here, right? One, you can't coagulate the entire
Yeah.
best players in the league on one team. You just can't do that. But what happens in the other leagues, right, is when a super team arrives, the other teams get better and are able to, and they also increase their spending and they go out and beat them. I think about the dynasty of the Patriots. Well, the Chiefs came along, and each dynasty that has come along in the NFL, you have the NBA where really at this point it's sincerely parity across the board because the
Yeah.
NBA, the spending is so high. If the players have all the power, and you look at how the owners are clinging to power, right? The Dodgers might be the final straw that breaks the back on the owners having to spend more money, but they're going to cling to all that power. They're going to try to
Yeah.
suppress this. And so even though we're getting to talk about these guys signing 150, $70 million deals, like
Yeah.
that's good, but it's not a step in the right direction because there's Schwarber signed where he was
Yeah.
before. None of these small market teams were able to land the Kyle Schwarber. Because
Yeah.
Kyle Schwarber's not convinced that they're going to keep spending for him.
Yeah. Well,
Edwin
that
Diaz
that
isn't
and
convinced the Mets are going to help him out.
right. Well, that and the fact that like I mentioned, I think that when you look at Kyle Schwarber or I mean when you look at the Dodgers with their signing of Edwin Diaz, like you know, other teams could offer him 3 years, $80 million, but they know the Dodgers are just going to go over that anyways.
Mhm.
Like that's kind of my whole deal with the Dodgers is like there's no structure to it. Teams
Right.
that look like they're never willing to spend know that they can never spend at that level, so why spend at all? Is kind of their thought process, and I don't like that thought process because they can spend on some guys. They can do some things to make their teams better. The Pirates, like the Pirates, could have just added a few guys and been in the playoffs last year. I mean, the NL Central outside of the NL Central got three teams in the division. The wild card was really bad last year. The Mets were bad. They barely broke 500. The Reds won 83 games and were in the playoffs.
Mhm.
The Pirates just had to add a few offensive pieces. They didn't have to be the Dodgers to make the playoffs.
Yep.
But I understand owners being skeptical to spend because they just know that if they offer 3 years 75, well, the Dodgers are just going to come over that anyways. I mean, that's
Yeah,
kind of the way
sure.
it works. So,
You have to be
um,
able to you have to be able to craft a pitch. You have to be able
yep,
to show that you're willing to do what it takes to build a
yeah,
winner. You have to show it you're able to treat these guys well off the
mhm,
field as well. The Dodgers are rather
yeah,
simply the best team to play for right now, and other teams have to catch up on that. And a lot of, I think, the consternation over this incoming lockout, it's going to focus on, I think, trying to even that playing field where we don't just want to go to the Dodgers. We want to get treated that way anywhere we go,
Yeah.
then the money, even if the money is more for the Dodgers, we can actually analyze the other things.
Right.
So I want to finish this up by noting that Ben here had a question regarding how much does Schwarber mean for the city of Philly. I think Kyle Schwarber is, man, he might be the most important Philly right now. He's the guy that hits all the home runs in the postseason.
Yeah.
He's as personable a player, a likable as a player as I can recall. Like even like Bryce Harper had his, his haters, a little bit, especially
Yeah.
early in his career. And then he came from Washington. I'm sure a lot of Phillies fans weren't the biggest fans of Bryce Harper from, the 2010s, right?
Yeah.
So, the pitchers are great too, right? Nola Wheeler and those guys. But I think Kyle Schwarber, having been on my team for as long as he was, winning a World Series with my team, winning a World Series with Boston. Or I guess he didn't win a World Series with Boston.
No, he didn't.
But he's been on Boston, right? He's traveled through the league.
He was playing the postseason in Boston and hit a bunch of home runs
right
in that postseason.
Yeah, he's one of the best postseason hitters of all time.
Yeah.
I look at his career right now. He's got like 350 home runs, 150. He's got 5 years now to get 150 home runs. He hits 500 home runs. He's probably a Hall of Famer.
I don't know.
It's gonna be close.
That's a debate we'll have to have in 10 years, but because I'm not on board with that right now. Even if he hits 500, there's going to be guys that hit 500 that aren't going to get in here pretty soon. But
you have to start thinking about it. Like,
oh yeah, well, I mean,
guys who hit 400 aren't getting in right now. Like, if you hit 500, then that's a lot of home runs.
Oh, for sure. I mean, but
I think if he were to get in, sure the hypothetical is whatever. If he were to get in, I think at this point he would wear a Philadelphia Phillies cap.
Probably.
And that sucks as a Cubs fan.
Yeah.
But that is as important as Kyle Schwarber has been to the city of Philadelphia. He has led this team for each of the last couple of seasons. I think the next 5 years he's the kind of bat that doesn't age, man. He's gonna be like David Ortiz. He's just gonna hit until he retires. And he's gonna hit really well until he retires.
Well, I'll tell you about my last thought on Kyle Schwarber in regards to this question. I don't think he's the most important Philly. I think that Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, a couple of the pitchers, most important Phillies. But Kyle Schwarber is kind of the heartbeat of that team.
Mm-hmm.
I think that team goes when Kyle Schwarber goes. So I think it's very important for him to go back, and I think it's a really big deal. And I think there was some concern with Philly that they were not going to be able to bring him back this offseason too. Like all late in the season, their fans were kind of, every time Kyle Schwarber got up, they're like, "Oh man, this might be his last at bat as a Philly." There's been a lot of thought about him maybe not signing with Philly. So I think it is a big deal that they were able to get this done and bring him back and kind of keep that clubhouse mentality intact, because that's one thing the Phillies have had over the last 4 or 5 years is they have a mentality that I think can win in the postseason. It's just hasn't quite happened. It hadn't happened, at the right times. There's been a little bit of luck involved there, but I do think this is a very good signing, and I think it means a ton for the city of Philadelphia.
Sure. Yeah, I think when we get around to predicting the season, doing our season previews in February, I'm going to be high on the Phillies again. And I was high on them this year. I thought this was like the year. Kind of looks like the team's going to be run back fairly similar. I mean, this is the big one. And to answer the question, I mean, I think he means a lot. And this is a awesome signing for Philadelphia. It's an awesome signing for the Phillies. Kyle Schwarber's making $150 million. That's awesome. Got an absolute bag.
Yeah.
I
didn't
love
get
that,
non-tendered this time.
Right. So we'll cap it off in a neat 30 minutes. So let me throw up the outro screen, but please do like, comment, and subscribe. We appreciate those that did tune in today, and we'll try to get up another quick flips if any other big moves happen this week. So be sure to stick around, and we'll catch you guys next time.